Welcome boys and girls, Costin here with my essential guide for Kislev in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. Now I've done all kinds of videos on the subject of Kislev, I recommend you check them out. I'll link a video on the subject of army compositions for Kislev at the end of this one, but there's all kinds of videos, legendary lore videos, atamans, devotions, all the kind of systems that Kislev has to deal with. Here I'm just going to cover the essentials, the things you need to know if you're looking to play a Kislev campaign. The question is, which Kislev campaign should you play? Well, I think Boris Ursus is a pretty good starting point if you're just looking to dominate the early game, because he has a very strong starting army, he can easily wipe out Archeon, but it's not necessarily going to be the campaign where you're going to learn the most, because, yeah, you're just going to obliterate everyone that stands in your path with relative ease, and I think you do need to force a player to have those kind of choices. Astankia is not great beyond the fact that she's a DLC campaign. I would recommend getting Shadows Change if you're looking to play Kislev. Things like Kislev Warriors are a very significant benefit. But listen, I think Kastaltin is a good starting point. Not Katrin. Katrin is a trap for new players. She'll teach you the wrong lessons. Also, speaking about traps, Astankia is a trap because she's a very tedious campaign in quite a few ways in order to maximize her output. There's downsides in Kastaltin's campaign compared to Astankia and Boris Ursus, climate-wise, supporter-wise, but I think in terms of managing this early game situation of Azazel, Tronk, Frot, Archeon, Arbol, it is probably one of the more useful campaigns to just learn the game in general, dealing with legendary lords, dealing with diplomacy, dealing with all kinds of things. One important thing to know when you're playing a Kislev campaign, and one of the things to understand, is you can use cheese to really get ahead in a Kislev campaign, like things like region trading. Like, for instance, I could confederate this faction very quickly by just selling Castle Alexandronov, for instance. Using cheese tactics to confederate like Brotherhood of the Bear, Druzina Enclave, Prague is very beneficial. You can also use it to get the Ice Witches and Frost Maidens, the special lords and heroes of Kislev that you go through the Ice Court training system otherwise to get. Though, of course, using the load save character system may not be viable for the sake of multiplayer. Now, with that being said, if you're playing Kastaltin, or if you're jumping in Katrin, what you are going to want to do is start growing the special cities of Kislev as quickly as possible. The moment you get a special city of Kislev, regardless of the campaign, you want to start getting that growth benefit. They have several growth structures. One gives you a construction cost benefit, the other one gives you a recruitment cost benefit. You just want to grow these cities as quickly as possible because the significant benefit of these cities is not the economy. The economy is irrelevant for these cities. What you want to use them for is recruitment purposes and various faction effects or regional effects because of the landmarks they have. Those are going to cost money, but is the principal benefit over there. In this case with Kastaltin, I start with the tier 1 barracks. Normally, if I'm trying to cheese this campaign, I'll just straight Castle Alexandronov over here to the Druzina Enclave, get Fort Strogov, and then I'll be able to confederate them pretty quickly, and also prevent Frot from taking the settlement as well. Because, like, if I take Fort Strogov over there, by trading Castle Alexandrov, he won't take a settlement, he'll be weaker, he won't get as much experience. That's kind of the thing to know in pretty much any campaign. Like, it's not just about fighting your enemy head-on, it's also about denying them assets. Frot, in particular, is a real danger because, well, Skaven are a nuisance in general, they get a lot of armies very quickly, but Frot in particular has a lot of scalability due to his unique mechanics. So you don't really want to let Frot get out of control because he will wipe the floor with you. Anyway, if you're not using low save character, you want to get Druzina. If you don't have Shadows of Change, get Boyars. But Druzina are generally the better choice because they have restock, and a lot of Kislevite units do use ammunition, so giving them that ability of replenishing ammunition is pretty useful. All kinds of skills over here. And since we start with cities in 2 different provinces, well, I'm just going to fight these battles, get another lord, get a bunch of Kislevite warriors, switch to the commandment that gives me local recruitment capacity, get that. Kislev can recruit units very, very quickly in a campaign. Partly because they do have that commandment for extra recruitment capacity, partly because they have a bunch of traits that can reduce recruitment cost, and even buildings that can reduce recruitment cost. So if we look at Castle Alexandrov, we can see that the farmstead reduces recruitment cost by 20% in the region, 25%, 30%. And also because you have a global recruitment benefit with Prague if you confederate them. Specifically, you have the Square of the Citadel. This gives you a global recruitment duration of -1 turn. A lot of the Kislevite units you want to recruit in a campaign when it matters can be recruited in 1 turn globally. Think of Kossars, Armor Kossars, Frostworms, etc., etc., etc. Later on, with Tsar Guard, with Ice Guard, with heavy war sleds, all that, it does become slower, but you still have an advantage with Prague because the higher level you get it to, the more global recruitment benefits you get. So at tier 5, it gets to a point of reducing your global recruitment duration to -2 turns. Now, one way to approach playing Kislev campaigns is you do want that aggression. So over here, for instance, we do have Azazel. He's at war with the Brotherhood of the Bear. I'm going to declare war on Azazel through the Brotherhood of the Bear, get some agreements, all that. This is going to push them towards Confederation, so I'm at war with Azazel now. And I could just attack him directly, but there is a better way, ambush tactics. Things like ambush tactics, you do have some woods over here with Kislev. I did recruit a bunch of units over here, so I'm just going to move them to Kastaltin. And there's a fairly high chance, in this case, that Azazel just marches his entire army into my well-prepared defenses. You want to get to tier 2 pretty quickly. You want to get the armor Kossars. Like, you might get a couple of Kislevite warriors very early on if you have Shadows of Change. And then I would recommend getting armor Kossars. A combination of armor Kossars with gray weapons and regular armor Kossars. Regular armor Kossars are better line holders. The gray weapons just do more damage. Between Kossars, which are ranged unit, Kislevite warriors, and armor Kossars, you have an early game army that's pretty much capable of dealing with most things. Research-wise, you want to get Troll Country Pathfinder and maybe Covalescence for extra growth casualty replenishment. And then you want to start going down the state path in order to get a bunch of different benefits over here. Though there's, of course, different benefits as well, like you could get the Little Grom research tree. What you don't want to spend your research on is the Ice Court control. It's not needed. This unlocks the slots in the Ice Court training system, but this is where you can use the Orthodoxy. See, after turn 5, you will get a choice over here in terms of boons. Like, you can get 2 boons for the court or for the Orthodoxy. And there is a specific boon that you can get with Ice Court, assuming you're not using load save character system, to get Ice Court Academia, which unlocks a slot for Frost Maidens, 1 for Ice Witches. So there's no point in wasting precious research time and just unlocking 1 slot for Frost Maidens and then 1 slot for Ice Court. It is useful from a hero capacity standpoint, but that's a bit later on that you might focus on. Or really, you may just want to get Ice Sculpting if that's the case, but you don't necessarily want to bother with Ice Court control. Or you could. That's your choice. Just keep in mind that there are significant benefits you can get elsewhere. So specifically with the state, you can get construction cost benefits, all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go over everything in terms of supporters. Just know at turn 5, you do have that choice. I'd recommend getting Ice Court if you're not using load save character to, just basically, I'm going to get an Ice Witch, and I'm going to get a Frost Maiden with good traits. I've done a whole video on the supporter system. Orthodoxy is generally better to build up, but if you need those training slots, yeah, get Ice Court Academia. But otherwise, Orthodoxy is what you want to focus on early on, because 10% campaign movement range with stacks, with Troll Country Pathfinders, recruit rank, replenishment of campaign movement range after battle. It's a pretty big deal, given some of the distances involved in a campaign like this. Either way, we've set up an ambush over here to Azazel. He likely falls into the ambush. I've got a full stack of troops here. I've got 2 other lords as well. And Azazel, the AI, this is on Legendary, normal. Azazel is highly likely to fall into that trap. In fact, I could have probably declared war earlier on him, and he would have marched towards me. And that's kind of the thing to know. Now, it says here, valiant defeat, your army was spotted. It's kind of a what ever situation here. This is a very winnable battle. And the reason to understand that is my army over here, even if I had regular Cossars, I could just corner camp them, nuke Azazel, kill him over there, no problem. It would have been better to ambush him. I would have just auto-resolved that, but having to fight this manual battle, like, one of the things to understand is, like, fighting manual battles as Kislev early on in a campaign is going to be pretty important. Corner camping is your friend if you want to be, if you want to take it easy, just make a formation diagonally in a corner, put melee units in front or some Cossars in front, snipe their lords, all that, hold the line. Kislev units are really good at holding the line because a lot of their units have Buyer Blood, which gives you a lot of the benefits of Unbreakable, makes them temporarily unbreakable when their leadership is going down, but they will eventually rout off the field. This is the best way to have Unbreakable because your units will still be taken off the field before they die most of the time, unless you just get your Patriarchs killed. That never happened to me. But really, they will rout out the field, so you won't lose them, but they will hold the line until they're pretty much dead. And that's the ideal situation to have with that. Having units completely standing their ground like Slayers is not really as much of a benefit as people think it is. So on turn 5, as I said, you do get this choice between the Ice Court and the Orthodoxy. If you're not getting the research for the Ice Court, and maybe even if you are getting that research for the Ice Court, but you're not using low save character, I'd probably go Ice Court early on, unless you're Catherine. The reason I would not go for this with Catherine is she'll have a hard time getting Orthodoxy support. Another reason not to play Catherine. Regardless, what you want to do then is just get tenets and start getting Ice Court training over here. Yeah, dealing with Azazel was not really a complicated affair whatsoever. And I do have 2 lords over here in this situation, and I'm just transferring units from one army to another and getting more armor Cossars over here. And region trading, regardless of how you feel about it, is something you want to do. Be a bit mindful about some things. One of the things you can do in order to maximize your potential in terms of Confederation is declare war on a bunch of minor factions that may not be too much of an issue. I wonder if Catherine's wiped out her initial enemy. Yes, seems like she has. So what you do is you declare war on a bunch of minor factions, and then you trade a settlement with the barracks in it to one of these Kislevite minor factions, and that's really going to increase the chances that they will be willing to vassalize with you. Like over here, I'm not quite willing to declare war on Fraught just yet this turn. But still, Erengrad, or Kislev City. And now we can talk about training. So training-wise, it does take a couple of turns, 5 turns over there, as you can see. Oh, but money, you might ask. Well, how do you deal with the money situation? It's not really a problem. It really won't be an issue. Kislev has a great financial situation, really, because they can get a lot of money through various declarations of war. They're a destination for cafe and caravans, those kind of things. Post-battle loot is pretty decent as well, so the amount of money you get for sacking a settlement or just fighting a battle is pretty good. In this case, the reason I'm running out of money is I got an entire stack, I've got free lords, so supply lines is diminishing me to an extent. But as long as region trade, I'm going to be in a better situation. This is one of the reasons you want to use load save character, and one of the reasons you want to use region trading is there are those traits available through load save character, and region trading just gives you, effectively infinite money if you want it. So over here we can see that these guys just quite willing to confederate. So if we declare war on Clan Mulder, for instance, don't bring your ally. But we declare war on Clan Mulder, and then we go to these guys and we declare war on... We get them to declare war on Mulder, or we get them to declare war on Norland, maybe. Or just, you know, trade Castle Alexandrov, get a bunch of money, do the region trade, get the territory back, and then we can, you know, we can go to other factions as well. And maybe region trade with them too. In this case, I don't need the Bay of Blades, so I'm just gonna trade that over there, get the non-aggression pact over here with the scaling. And with the Sarl, we can trade the Tower of Crack, get a bunch of money. On Legendary in particular, this works very well because it's gonna be a lot of money. With Dice Court, you always want to go for Tempest Magic. Frost Magic, like Ice Magic, can be useful sometimes. I'm not going to dispute that. But more often than not, really, with Ice Magic versus Tempest Magic, it's more of support than... pure damage. Like, you get powerful spells like Blizzard and Hawks of Miska through Tempest Magic. You don't have those kind of abilities, really, through Ice Magic. And yeah, Skaven lose to Auto-Resolve against Kislev because they're freaking Skaven, so they're not really that great. From that perspective, we can get some Maxinas even. Regiment's Renown, good stuff. Just get some regular armor Cossars. I feel a bit much. You don't really need to get these many armor Cossars. Regular Cossars can actually win it if you're willing to play like Legend of Total War, or learn certain things from Legend. But still. And like Norland, I'm not really too worried about Norland, honestly. Like, they could declare war on me, sure, that always can happen. But you can see how much money I got over here just for a couple of region trading, some declarations of war, some manipulation of situations, some post-battle loot. And flat out, I am stronger than my opponents right now. I have more units than they do on Legendary. And you can pull this off in any Kislev campaign. Now, what if you're not willing to region trade? Well, you might not be getting 2 settlements to tier 2, but you can certainly recruit this many units in any campaign. That's not really the problem. So we do get Mr. Fraud over there. I kind of want to chase that army away, really. Yep. One of the things to say about sieges is, like, if you can attack an army outside of a settlement first, that might be ideal. In this case, not so much. But yeah. Ice Court, again, you get a bunch of trade choices. So what really matters here? Like, there are some things that don't matter. Glacial Blaster is one of those things that matters because it gives you wins of magic cost for all spells and reduces spell resistance for enemies. You could get Ice Shard Wielder, but that's not as useful as Glacial Blaster. And would you rather have wins of magic spell reduction or Vanguard or Unbreakable? Again, Kislev Lords inherently are very good in terms of their leadership. So yeah, Glacial Blaster is usually the one you want to go. The other one you want to go for is Logistica. Kislev does not have a hero that increases their campaign movement range. So Frost Maidens and Ice Witch Lords with Logistica, they can get to 2. And Frost Maiden heroes with Logistica is the way you increase your campaign movement range. You do have distances to cover, you got shit to deal with, and that is really the best way of dealing with it. Yep, just get restock. It's not so important for some of the very early game battles, but it can be important. But it is important in some of the longer battles, especially if you're dealing with multiple armies of, I don't know, rats. In this case, like, Kislev has one weakness: siege. They don't have good siege armies. That's not really a problem most of the time because they can just shoot their way, but they don't have artillery. So your siege tactics usually involve just either throwing all your Kislev warriors and armor Cossars into a big blob and rushing for the victory point, or using your ranged units to kill everything in sight, or a combination of the two of them, really. Here, I'd probably just wait for the reinforcements to spawn, kill them, and then just attack a small section of the wall, really. Maybe I should have gotten more regular Cossars, actually, in this case. Like, there is a reason why you may want to recruit regular Cossars as opposed to just Kislev warriors and armor Cossars. Yeah, that's one dynamic to take into consideration. Well, Vlad ended up being the same nuisance that you might usually expect him to be, in the sense that he had 4 freaking armies in total to throw against me. That's one of the things to beware when you're dealing with Vlad. He won't just throw 1 army against you, he'll throw 4. That's pretty damn normal for Mr. Vlad over here. Now we can also start working on the situation in Confederation with Prague. Getting Prague is pretty important. You can usually just build your relationship over time with them in order to secure a deal with them and get the Confederation. But chances are Arbol might come over here and ruin your day, really. And you obviously don't want that to happen. Like, really, you don't. So in this case, I'm even going to give them money. I'm going to do a bit of region trading. So, you know, Fort Stragov over here for the sake of, you know, to be able to get casualty replenishment. There is a penalty on Confederation. The way it works is you need to have a plus 150 diplomatic relation with the faction in order to be able to confederate them. And when you're trading stuff to them, like, usually it takes time to build up that relationship. But if you declare war on a faction, get a peace agreement, get a military alliance, the relationship between you and them will update much faster. Like, it won't go all the way through, but it will be, I think, a percentage of what it's leaning towards. So, like, over here, it's going towards 163. You need to have plus 150 in order to not have a Confederation penalty. Just worth pointing out. So yeah, we just go deal with Hell Pit over here. Not really an issue. Skill line wise, what I generally prefer to do is, like with Patriarchs, I prefer to get towards Battle Hymn, melee attack, all that good stuff. With Legendary Lords, regardless of what I'm playing on, I spend 1 point of Rune Marcher, 1 Inspiring Presence, 3 Fire Drills, and then either I spend in different skills, like melee skills, because I have to, with Legendary, to deal with a particular file, like Archeon or something like that, or I save up until rank 12 to get their special skill line. In the case of Kastaltin, he's got a lot of useful things, like Heroic Resiliency for his entire army. He can be made unbreakable. That's not really so much of a benefit, as it is really a downside in a lot of different ways. But sometimes CA doesn't know how to make their own damn skill lines, really, and you end up with that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. So in this case, we are building that good relationship with Prague. We should be able to confederate Prague, and then once Prague is confederated, the next goal is to get Catherine, get Kastaltin, get Boris Ursus, all those things, because you can get 3 out of 4 Legendary Lords in a Kislev campaign, and if you're playing a Stanka, you can get all 4 Legendary Lords in a Kislev campaign. Just a point worth making. So over here, you can see Confederation is already set up. Let's see if we can trade another settlement. Like, the region trading stuff is pretty bullshit, I'm not gonna lie, in a lot of different ways. So in this case, we're going to trade Castle Alexandrinov, but let's see if we can pull a military alliance. Okay, and there we go. 2 factions of Kislev already confederated. Pretty good benefit. We're gonna get a rebellion here. I'm not worried about it. Yep, just start getting... Actually, we will get another settlement to tier 2, because I want to sell that to Catherine. You'll see what I'm planning on doing. There are plans within plans. If you want to get supporters for the Ice Court or Orthodoxy, one of the ways you can do it is through structures. So for Orthodoxy Shrine or Courthouse, going into things like ministerial housing, for instance, just an example right there. Though usually you may want to get the growth building too. And also Orthodoxy chapels, because it gives you hero capacity for patriarchs. These eye switches and that eye switch and Frostmaiden are almost finished. In terms of the last choice, it really boils down to economist and architect. Like protector, not really that useful. Yeah, you can argue about the devotion benefit, though there's ways of handling that other way. You can get architect for growth and crucially construction cost benefit that stacks. So you can get a huge discount on construction cost. Or economist gives you minus 20% recruitment cost for a lord. Usually for a lord I prefer architect. For a hero, this can give you recruitment cost minus 2% all armies, faction-wide, all armies. Pretty important if you ask me on that subject. So yeah, we're just going to deal with Help It, and I think in this case I can even attack that army, and I might have that army standing fight. Yep, and that's just easy win. Like, that's one of the keys to sieges, is like, forget about attacking directly. In this case, forget about attacking directly outside. Forget about attacking the settlement directly, and think about what can you do if you attack an army outside, deal with that, or out-resolve that. That significantly weakens it, so you don't have to deal with a miserable fucking siege. So yeah, over here, just get a bunch of different things. Eye switch will be ready soon enough. Golden Knight, legendary hero. You need tier 3. Try and get that as quickly as possible. And what the Golden Knight gives you, what you need to do in order to get the Golden Knight is you need to get the Tsar Guard building. So you need to get this building. It doesn't matter if you have Kislev City with a landmark there. It doesn't matter if you have the Atamans estate. That's a pretty big benefit for Ataman experience, which I'll get into just a second. It doesn't matter if you have any of that. What matters is you need that royal barracks. Bit annoying, not gonna lie, because there are different ways of recruiting Tsar Guard. But the Golden Knight is a really powerful legendary hero. She's a really good duelist, which is like only Boris Ursus is a good duelist among the Kislev legendary lore. So effectively for Catra and Kostaltin. Kostaltin is not a duelist. He's a support character. And that's how you should use Kostaltin, as a support character, not a guy going toe-to-toe with freaking Bloodthirsters. The Golden Knight can go toe-to-toe with Bloodthirsters, and she can freaking win against Bloodthirsters. One further point is regards to Atamans. Every 2 provinces that you control, and each Kislev city is in its own province, every 2 provinces you control, you get an Ataman. Now, Atamans, pretty damn significant. They have various traits that increase, that give a province certain benefits. So in this case, you get devotion and growth, and the province he's an Ataman. They gain experience per turn when they're in a location. So you get Ataman, like, they get 150 character experience per turn. This grows the less devotion there is in a province, which you will have in a higher level settlement. It can go up to 200, and then you can get that structure for extra experience. Leveling up Atamans is a pretty big deal. So Atamans in a province give you the ability of attacking with the garrison, so any rebellion is much easier to tackle with an Ataman. Then, they have a special blue skill line that reduces construction cost by minus 20% and construction time by -1. That's a pretty damn big deal. They get growth benefits. And then they can further reduce construction time by -1 and remove climate penalties. Or they can get 100% tradable resources in the province they're in and 10 diplomatic relations. Which one of these two is useful? I'd say in a province where you have a lot of trade resources, this is exceptionally good. In a chaos climate province, this is really good. And this is one of the things to mention about Kislev. Kislev actually wants to gain control of the chaos wastes. They have a commandment that gives them control. And they can get a bunch of benefits like ataman experience, ataman levels, all that kind of stuff. They can nullify climate penalties in 2 ways. They can do it for an ataman. They can do it with 75 to 100 devotion, which nullifies that. I think some of it is permanent. I'm not sure how much of it is permanent versus a glitch. Something else worth pointing out, and as I said, I'm not going to go in over the entire damn thing in terms of supporters, but there is a benefit over here for the Orthodoxy, and this is the reason the Orthodoxy is dominant. You get population surplus 1 for newly captured settlements. Crucially, you get 100 devotion for each captured settlement. Each captured settlement. Each region. So if a region has 4 settlements, that's 400 devotion. That's freaking ridiculous. And 4 population surplus. That means you can actually use invocations. So what invocations are is you need to have 50 devotion to be able to use it. It costs 25 devotion each. Invocations can be either army or province. So you can instantly complete 1 turn of ongoing construction. You can get an army spell, barrier, defensive benefits, 50 growth, local recruitment capacity, instantly replenishing all units in the selected settlement's garrison, or summon an attrition storm. The one that I think is the most useful, well, there's 2 ones that are useful. The growth one and the completion of 1 ongoing construction. But for armies, you can get replenishment of foreign territory, character experience, flammable, magical attacks, Wrath of the Bear ability, campaign movement range. All kinds of benefits. Problem is with devotion, especially on hard difficulties, is that you're only really going to use it at a point your campaign is over. So I think, yeah, we do really need a change to remove the difficulty level modifier. It's still useful. Mind you, Kislev can get a lot of control. Don't get me wrong, or a lot of devotion. That's not a problem. It's just you're not really going to use invocations until a point you're kind of done with your campaign. Because, like, you know, Azazel defeated, Frot defeated, Wulfric is left, sure. But that's not really a problem over here, to be quite blunt about it. So that is not really an issue whatsoever. And it's something I can really deal with very easily. The real complication here is that if I'm playing Castalton, I want to be at war with her enemies to get devotion for the Ice Court. If I'm playing Catherine, I want to go be at war with Castalton's enemies. So over here, for instance, right, I may want to declare war on this faction to a degree or another, just to get a bit of Ice Court support. She's literally gonna ask me for money, so I declare war on her enemies. Jeez, talk about being a cheap-ass Catherine. That is certainly a bit annoying. I'm just going to recruit the Ice Witch. I'm even gonna save this character because she actually has good traits, so yeah. Remember, save your characters. Start the Realms of Chaos campaign and then save your freaking characters. It is gonna pay off. So over here I want the barracks. Always trade those damn barracks. By the way, the amount of money I have, pretty damn normal in a Kislev campaign, I gotta say. So let's just get more devotion, more growth. You can see how well all of that is going over here. Generally, I would go for the construction cost reduction building. Now, with that sorted out, I think I'm just gonna get Ice Sculpting for an extra Frost Maiden capacity. Speaking about Frost Maiden, maybe I should get one. Finally. Turn freaking 10 of the campaign. So let's just recruit one. Save her, because she's got good traits. Like, you can just save up a bunch of characters. You only really need 1 or 2 Ice Witches saved up, or you can just play Realms of Chaos as Castalton. The reason I recommend Castalton is because he'll just recruit them at level 1, and you kind of want them at level 1. Because the higher they are leveled up, the more expensive they'll be. Yeah, I kind of misjudged the range there, didn't I? Yeah, these are some of the things to know about the Kislev campaign. You know, just manage it after this point. You'll do perfectly well. Like, literally, if you can deal with Azazel and Frot, or Archeon if you're playing Borcersus, or Arbol if you're playing Astankia, then everything else is pretty smooth sailing. Wulfric might show up with a massive fucking stack, and I think that's going to be a bigger problem once Norska gets reworked. Okay, we'll take that. keep in mind with supporters, you want to fight chaos factions, but if you're playing Castalton, you'll only gain supporters from fighting chaos factions with the Orthodoxy. If you're playing Catherine, you'll only get them through the with the Ice Court. So just one of those things you want to recognize over there in that situation. Let's see if we can just, you know, sell our Plesk. Yep, we can. And then give her Volksgrad for back for Plesk. Or declare war on Trog, and so you can see I got 20 devotion for hiding chaos there. We can even set up a nice little ambush, but yeah. In this case, I would just declare war on Trog. And then sell Volksgrad for back for Plesk, and also for Catherine to declare war on Trog, so I can maximize my supporter situation. And by the way, it doesn't have to be chaos factions that you do this with. Or against. Like, I could actually gain supporters by conquering the Empire as long as Catherine's on board with it. Kind of a bit hilarious, really. On that entire subject. Anyway, that's really all I had to say. Costine signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications. Stay tuned for more.